The water is wide, I can't cross o'er, but neither have I wings to fly. Give me a boat that can carry two, and both shall row, my love and I.
The bar's rough and you're foolish enough to mess around and go over it when you shouldn't, you're in trouble. And even when it's rough, when it's bad weather, you have to respect it, you know. Of course, the bee is in charge of you. You're not in charge of the sea. That I can tell you.
In our day and age, we tend to think that we're in control of many things. We hop in our car and we turn the key and it turns on and we go where we want to go. But one thing that I've learned by the sea is that the sea is much larger than I am, and that many times I have a false sense of security and me being in control, and that the sea can change very, very rapidly, and it forces all of my schedules and desires and what I wanted to accomplish to change rapidly outside of my control.
I hate to say it this way, but if you got any common sense, you behave yourself and you respect it. I'll tell you that right now, because the sea is nice, but it can get very rough.
The husband was still in the boat when it went down, and he actually had to swim down to get up. And when he came up, he and his wife both had she had a BC on, but he had no wetsuit or life jacket. So there were 5 people in the water. The waves were 10 feet tall, and it was small craft warnings, which they didn't realize, they didn't know.
There was a boat like a month ago that sank and 2 men died when we don't know exactly what happened, but they think a tug and a tow they got caught up in the hawser between the tug and the tow, and that heavy tow line grabs the boat and just flips it over.
Engine overheated and conks out, which has a cutout switch. So I'm bobbing around. I don't know. I can't make any headway. There's no wind. The engine's not working. I figure the engine will cool off for a while, then I'll try it again, and I see the Coast Guard boat going by. And I'm like hesitant, you know, I'm not really in danger, but on the other hand, I'm not, you know, so I wave. The guy waves back, and they keep going. I didn't give him the universal help me type signal, and I'm saying, I don't even know how to ask for help, but yes, you know.
So he had to watch for a following wave, which would be coming along behind him, which would push him along. And he was going along good, and all of a sudden, the wave overtook him and pushed him over, and the boat turned upside down. So there was my father with his brother. The boat had turned upside down. Finally, they managed to get onto the boat and hang onto the keel. And they hung on there until somebody came along and took them away. But if my father hadn't survived, I wouldn't be here. Or my 4 sisters either.
That's, you're dealing with the forces of water and wind, and yet at the same time you have an objective, but you have to take the way things are into consideration.
It's high adventure frequently.
It's going to turtle out, out, out. And the next wave hit us, and suddenly we were underwater. And so the rain of things falling down that were on the floor, the tools, the jackets, the clothes, and then all of the water coming in the door. That's thousands of pounds. And so that water coming into the door was much, much stronger than I was. And all I could do was hold on to that bunk bed and just feel like a piece of wet tissue paper being straddled, feeling things coming in. And I remember sitting there thinking, if that hatch is open, this water's not going to stop coming in until the entire boat's full. And I'm not sure I can hold my breath that long. And after a few seconds, which felt much, much longer, the pressure of that wave relaxed. And so I immediately went out the door and went up, which of course was stupid because above me was the deck of the boat. And so I hit the deck of the boat and I'm pulling myself through the winches and getting off. And the boat, I remember, was sinking much, much faster. You could feel the boat coming down.
Well, at sea, I'll tell you one thing about the sea, and especially on the bay, what I liked. I think I felt much closer to the Lord. I was close to the outside, and I think I felt closer to the Lord. I could see more.
I'm 88 years old. I was born in 1919. My father was a fisherman. My mother's father was a fisherman. So they were all fishermen's families.
The sea has reached deep into my soul now that I can live with it every day. It's a very important part. I always said to my husband, if it got too expensive to keep waterfront property, don't work himself to death, go live anywhere. I'll live in a hut. And now I've decided living here, well, the hut really better still be by the sea.
I have lent myself to thy will, O sea, to the urge of the tidal sway, my soul to thy lure of mystery, my cheek to thy lashing spray. For there's never a man whose blood runs warm, but would quaff the wine of the brimming storm. As the prodigal lends, have I lent to thee, for a day or a year and a day. And what if the tale be quickly told, and the voyage be wild and brief? I can face thy fury with courage bold, and never a whine of grief.
My parents always told me that I was conceived on the Great South Bay, and I almost was born on the Great South Bay. My mom was racing with my dad in his Nebraska tuck and went into labor, and they got her down to Southside Hospital just in time for me to be born. I can never remember not being involved in the water.
As I said, I've always lived in West Sable, which is right on Great South Bay. My business and my work has almost always been on the bay.
So I would say that my relationship with the sea began when I was as far from the sea as anyone could be. It was more of a mental longing, I think, for something that I didn't have around me.
I was actually born in Duluth, Minnesota. My grandfather loved to fish, and when I was a little kid, he'd take us out fishing, my brother and I out fishing all the time, and I just fell in love with it.
I don't know how to explain it. You can ask the farmer why he likes farming. He likes it because he's a farmer, And that's the way. One thing about farming and fishing, they're quite close together. Strictly independent. Fiercely independent.
They're kind of tough guys, most of them are, I call them the last cowboys.
You can just take a look at what hardy men they are. I mean, would you want to be out there with your boots in the cold rain and the water and digging in the mud? And look, it's a very solitary life by nature.
My mother bore me in an island town. So I love the windy water and the sight of luggers sailing by in thin moonlight. I wear the sea as others wear a crown. My mother bore me near the spinning water. Water was the first sound upon my ears. And near the sea her mother bore her daughter. Close to a window looking on a weirs. Ever a wind is moaning where I go. I never stand at night upon a quay. But I must strain my eyes for sails that blow. But I must strain my ears to hear the sea. My mother bore me in an island town. I wear the sea as home.